Welcome to Oh Hell No with Nicole.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Oh Hell No. Today we have Staci, not Stacy. Are you tasty? Tasty Stacy, no. Staci Taustine. She is the founder of Stubborn Heart Consulting. Welcome, Staci. Thanks for being here.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Nicole.
No problem. I'm sorry, I had a tongue twister with your name, Stacy. I don't know what's going on with me today.
There's so many great variations of it. We had a funny one at work last week. Someone, I forget, it was like some version of like forgetful with Stacy, and I was like, I don't know if I want that to follow me at work. But
All right. So today we're going to talk about your organization, why you started it, what is the purpose of it. So first, I want to ask you, what is Stubborn Heart Consulting?
So I guess it's really a calling more than anything else, in the sense that it came to me in one foul swoop while I was cycling, literally less than 2 months ago. It's a combination of all of my life experiences boiling over into one place, and it's my passion project turned entrepreneurial adventure, which is that I have been a teacher, a trainer, and a coach, and I also am really passionate about cycling, having gone through my own health journey. And so I was trying to think of a way that I could combine all of the things that bring me happiness and things that I've used to get through some of the hardest times in my life so that I could share it with others. And so Stubborn Heart Consulting came about as a way to combine health, wellness, self-love, compassion, and community into one place. And so that's the inspiration behind the cornerstone of Stubborn Heart, which is a 6-week wellness community created and curated for women to come together and work through some of life's biggest challenges together.
Oh, okay. So it's a 6-week wellness community program. So in the 6 weeks, is this some place where people are staying for 6 weeks and they can't leave, or is it a daily program where you come in at a certain time and leave at a certain time?
So the way it's designed is for it to be able to fit into people's lives. I know that in my long journey with chronic illness, and of course, a pretty significant health struggle in 2016, one of the hardest parts is like finding time for ourselves to take care of ourselves. And so I wanted to create something that I could fit into our daily lives and be something that is manageable for women who are bound to a lot of other things. So some of us are raising families, some of us have a lot of restrictions around our work hours or things like that. So Sundays would be spent in like a community Sunday where we would come together for 2 hours, doing personal development and really building community with one another. And then Tuesdays and Thursday evenings after work, we would join up for a 45-minute cycling experience where there's no experience needed. In fact, I would love to invite women who have no experience or have felt like it's not for them to really connect with our minds and our bodies at one time and stay in tune with what we're thinking about and what's going on in our hearts at the same time. So the rides are actually choreographed and coordinated with the learning from that Sunday. So it's 3 days a week for 6 weeks, and it's an opportunity to get to know all the other women more deeply, and also go on that journey in partnership with other people.
Oh, wow, that sounds very interesting and also nice because it's a great way to meet new people as well. And, like you said, share your experiences. So the cycling on Tuesdays and Thursdays, is it like on the road cycling or is it like inside a, like how they have those what do they call those classes?
Spin classes?
Right. Is it like that or is it actually we're on a bicycle outside for real?
Yep. So it's actually indoors, in a spin studio. I actually began my journey with spin almost 6 years ago now. And I'm a trained spin cycling instructor as well. And so that was a large piece of my life and a part of my journey, that I found to be so much more about everything else than it was about the bike.
Mhm.
The best part about it for me was that I couldn't fall off. I'm a very clumsy person by nature, and so surprisingly, I'm adept at riding indoors, but haven't been on an outdoor bike in years. So I guess I should reveal that secret now. It is all indoors on stationary bikes. Um,
Yeah. I mean, that's good because I'm not really a outside bicycle person just because as a kid I never really learned how to ride a bicycle. I mean, I can now as an adult, but I'm still very shaky and nervous. And some people might be and on the road, so it's good to know that it's indoors, people. So don't be afraid.
and Nicole, I think that's so interesting that you said, shaky and hesitant, because I think that's what a lot of us feel about things that we don't feel are for us, or if we can do it, that uncertainty that comes into our heads where we're not confident in what will happen when we take it on. And
Right.
I wanted to remove that for people, because as much as people tell us it's like riding a bike, in the back of our head we're like, yeah, but you don't know how I ride a bike. So
Exactly.
I want it to be accessible and something that people can look forward to, even if they've never done it before. So there's no fear here.
Wow. So when you do the cycling, so is it like broken down into cycling and then after cycling, are you guys like having a snack and sitting together and, sharing, stories or talking or anything like that? Or is it just basically cycling on those 2 days and that's it? You come in to cycle with the group and then you leave.
So the Sunday, which I see as sort of like the start to our week and not the end of the week.
Mhm.
Um, so Sunday being the first time that we see each other every week is dedicated solely to unearthing our stories, really communicating and talking in a way that is different than we might have the opportunity to do with folks in our lives otherwise. I know I'm blessed to be vulnerable with folks at work, and I'm worked really hard to curate relationships that I can be fully and authentically myself. But that's not the case for all of us. And so this community is meant to serve that purpose, where when you step through those doors on Sunday, we're not going to say, hey, how are you? And look away because we don't actually care what your response is. That is time to really open up with one another, talk about things that maybe we haven't felt that we could talk about with other people. And mostly because we're all there for our own reasons, but the
Mhm.
same reason, in the sense that we're looking for something more and something that we can feel connected to and at home and at ease in doing. So if you're willing to open up and you're willing to look for something different, I would say that this is an experience that you're looking for, as opposed to, say, some of the other boot camps or some of the other things that you can do, because I always felt like that was what was missing for me. I was around all these great women who I'd wished, like, hey, would it be awkward if I asked one of them to grab a drink after class? Or is it odd if, we meet up for a coffee and talk about, the struggles that are going on in our lives right now? So taking those questions and throwing them out the window and saying, that wouldn't be weird at all. That's exactly what we hope comes out of this.
So how long is the Sunday session?
It's 2 hours.
Okay, so that's 2 hours. And then the cycling on Tuesdays and Thursdays is how long?
A typical cycling session, which is about 45 minutes.
Okay.
And again, that's choreographed to music, but also a continuation of the learning. So if we're really exploring what it is that we're challenged by and what we're facing in our lives this week, then there are going to be prompting questions and time for reflection during the ride.
Mhm.
It's a little bit more specific and a little bit more geared towards what you're looking to achieve for yourself. Because I see that time as time to be in our heads and not out of our heads. Whereas in the past, I feel like I've gotten to a fitness class and they said, "You're here to sweat, check your head at the door." And I think I'm saying the opposite.
Oh, okay. All right. So, this whole program, at the end of it, what should people leave with, or what do you think they will leave with? And is there anything that you get? You build these relationships for one, right? So you leave with possibly new friends, or at least someone that you can talk to. But what else do you hope that the women take from your program?
So I guess that's inspired by the name, which is that I believe that we all have a stubborn heart, or a potential to be resilient no matter how many challenges that life throws our way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in our weakest moments or in times of struggle, we forget that, because frankly, it's hard. And I want the women who experience these 6 weeks to leave feeling more confident than ever that they have everything they need to face any struggle that they'll ever face, because not only are they strong and resilient within themselves, but when they feel weakest, they know of other stubborn heart women and stubborn heart community members in their own lives that they can turn to remind them of who they are when they forget. I know that part of the journey is learning to ask for help, and part of the journey is offering help. So, walking away from 6 weeks with that mindset, knowing that you are unshakable, is exactly what I want, to foster for the folks who take part in the Stubborn Heart Kickstart.
Okay. And are you a resource for them post um, the retreat or the wellness experience? So can they still contact you, after everything is over, or once you're done, you're done? Like,
Absolutely. So, I'm actually available for coaching as well. I am really transparent in my participation in the community, and think unlike a lot of self-help or wellness folks who have achieved their goals and are now sharing how to do it with others, I think I'm really transparent in the reality that this is my lifetime journey and I'm on it with you. I want to be part of this community that we're curating because I have as much to learn from folks as I do to teach and to share. And so, there'll be a forum, that folks who have finished the program have access to continue communicating online. I will be really transparent about where I cycle and will continue to be, ever willing and excited to continue the work afterwards. That's my, fitness of choice. And so, not to say that everyone who finishes the program will love to continue cycling. Perhaps they pick up, going to yoga together or doing other things that feel, like a best fit for them. I want to encourage us all to stay in touch and really, be authentic in the way that we're carrying out this vision of maintaining community. And that doesn't look the same for everyone. So it doesn't mean that you have to, check in daily or, be beholden to an accountability partner that I'm going to call and check up on you about. But, in the way that feels comfortable for you, I would encourage every person to stay in touch and continue to curate this community of stubborn hearts.
so this program, there's a cost associated with it, I'm sure, right?
Yes, there
Okay.
is. And I am currently working with partners, in the city to figure out ways to make it as, cost effective and affordable for the women who participate. We're hoping to launch in February,
Hmm.
and so, registration will open in the next month, as soon as we have those details sorted.
And this will be in what state?
So it's in New York City. We're in Manhattan, and the classes will be hosted in Manhattan. And I'm open to figuring out ways to do this, online in the future. But for the first, Stubborn Heart Kickstart, it's going to be in person, and, um, looking forward to having that experience with,
Meaning in person registration, right?
in person. community as opposed to online or a digital community.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Yeah,
like the Sunday meeting will be in person as opposed to online.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I like the idea of having it in person. I mean, I think you should keep it in person and then, you know, maybe you could do something online as well, like a private, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think, the inspiration behind all of this was that I experienced a perforated intestine in June of 2016.
Mhm.
And I think having lost everything, including my ability to eat on my own or walk for a significant period of time, I learned that the people in my life who came to my bedside, who sat there and told stories and held my hand, as powerful as it can be to be in touch via Facebook and social media, that there's something about being in person that really can't be competed with.
Yeah.
And so, I absolutely agree with you, and hope to really have this be a success in person.
So this illness that you had, is this the chronic illness or was this the struggle that you went through in 2016, or is it now something that is chronic because it happened? Like, can you explain to us like what happened?
Oh, absolutely. So, in terms of chronic illness, I have navigated and negotiated what doctors call polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis. And those things have been part of my adventure.
Yeah.
As I was 2000, I guess I was diagnosed officially in 17, but struggled with symptoms from early ages, starting around 11. Um, I have done a number of things with my health to manage the symptoms, but again, both of those are chronic illnesses that don't have a cure per se.
What are some of the symptoms of the polycystic ovarian issue, just in case someone is having these symptoms and doesn't know what it is?
Absolutely. I'd say, it's one of the more difficult conditions to um, actually identify, because when I was young, I would go to the doctor with severe pain on cramping around my period, a lot of weight gain. You actually have experienced hirsutism, which is excessive hair growth in areas that are not common for women, as well as hair loss, um, a lot of fatigue, and typically you could catch me falling asleep in the middle of a party. I was that person.
Wow.
And, a lot of the symptoms can be attributed to things like, oh, that's just what happens to girls when they have a period.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe you just have a low pain tolerance. And so for many years, I thought, hey, maybe it's just me. But after seeing another doctor around 17, they did realize that I had PCOS, and that in many circumstances, this is the case, that young women are diagnosed after having felt like something was off for quite a bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but in my experience, it can also come with a lot of emotional challenges that come with feeling like something isn't right about you, or feeling like other girls don't look like you, or the challenges of being bullied for being overweight, no matter how much I dieted or um, exercised. And so I think that can be a really emotional component of PCOS and endometriosis, because it can be kind of isolating, and it can be something that you don't feel comfortable talking about, given that you don't like to talk to too many people about your ovaries, right? There's sometimes a stigma about sharing symptoms that are personal like that, for fear of, saying too much or being out of line or inappropriate as a young girl.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know that there are, I've known quite a few women who've had endometriosis, but I've never known anyone that was diagnosed with the polycystic issue. So that's pretty interesting. And thank you for sharing that information with us, because you never know who's struggling from that. And not know, because a lot of times people, they have heavy periods, they have, bad cramping. And like you said, they think it's just a part of being a girl, and that comes with the territory. But it's not normal. Something is going on. Your body is telling you something. If you're like bleeding through all your pads and your tampons, and you're doubled over in pain, and you can't go to work because you're in so much pain, like that's not normal.
Exactly. And I think so much of it, when I see, oh, hell no, I think a lot about sticking with that and not letting myself be pushed over or ignored around what I know to be true about my own body, which, and sometimes, doctors are smarter than me, or doctors know better than me, or doctors have more experience than me. And while that is true, there have been times in my life where I've needed to be stubborn, and I've needed to rely on my stubborn heart to say something is not right here, and I need to persist and find answers. I need to figure out what I need to do to advocate for myself, because accepting an answer of we don't know, or that's just not the case, when something in your heart tells you I need more answers than this. I want to be someone who can encourage women to trust their heart and be stubborn when they feel like they need to, because it's so important and it's so critical that we get to feel like our best selves, even if we have some curveballs thrown our way.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the perforated intestine, how did that happen?
That's an interesting question. So, we're not sure, to be quite honest. And I've talked about it on my Instagram, that learning to live with this gray area of not being sure how or why things happen
Mm-hmm.
can be hard. I think that's something that folks who have never had a perforated intestine can relate to, which is trying to like carve out a good life for yourself when you're not sure how bad things happened in the first place and if you can prevent them from happening again.
Right.
We don't know exactly what caused it. I was actually cycling that day. I had taught a class. I was out dancing, and I collapsed on the floor of the 86th Street subway station. They didn't understand what was wrong with me when I arrived at the ER, because I looked like a healthy 28-year-old, I guess 27 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took them a few minutes too long to realize that I was already about septic. So I think that speaks to the reality that sometimes what we look like on the outside and what's going on for our bodies on the inside can be a mismatch. And so never to take for granted the fact that what we see and what people feel might not be the same thing.
Right. That's so scary. So, what kind of changes have you had to make with this whole issue that happened to you? Because I mean, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so I didn't either, to be honest. And, it's been quite the learning curve over the last year and a few months. I was in the hospital for a month. I have lived with a feeding tube, which I didn't know they could do, but they can feed you through a tube if they can't allow you to use your intestines while it's healing. And so I spent the next year sort of living on my mom's living room couch, not somewhere you think you're going to be when, you had bigger plans for 28. But nevertheless, all the folks that I mentioned before really came through. And my biggest change was like accepting help. I was always an independent person who really thought that my best asset was that I could do anything on my own and that I didn't need people. So being knocked down in a way that I realized, hey, you're not picking yourself back up by yourself, was a huge adjustment for me. And it was a huge mind shift as well. My mindset around independence and what it means to ask for help totally changed. And I really started inviting people into my life more in ways that I was surprised to find they were eager to help. They were honored to help, and that I saw that I would have my chance to return the favor as needed, because they didn't hold it over my head or see it as a burden. They saw it as a chance to be there. And that really gave me a lot of faith in humanity and a lot of hope for what we can do when we're honest with the people around us about what our needs are and what we really want. So surprising outcomes, I guess, given that like physically there was unfun challenges like needing my best friend to shave my legs and like, the working from home on a computer and Skyping in folks
Right.
for meetings. But other than that, I would say it was just learning how much you could miss something you thought you hated. I always thought that like taking care of my health was a chore. I always worked out because I needed to lose weight or I wanted to have a number on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
And once I lost it all, I realized that I actually worked out because it made me feel happy and letting my body sweat felt good. And, that whole saying about you don't know what you have until it's gone really rang true for me. And so it was a huge paradigm shift around thinking about what I needed my body for and counting on it to carry me through life, to do fun things and to participate in the world in all the ways that I wanted to. And so it's just been slowly reclaiming each and every one of those little milestones. Bending over all the way happened this morning, actually,
Wow.
at Zumba with a full class of women who are, between 70 and 80. And, I think they got their excitement from watching me realize that I could do a full bend for the first time in over a year. So um,
Wow.
all the little milestones count and never taking for granted how special these things can be because just because it's not a big deal to someone else doesn't mean it's not a big deal to us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, is your intestine completely healed now?
Yeah, so it's patched. I have a fancy patch in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they tell me anyways. So I guess it's glued on, sewed on. I'm not totally sure, but it is good to go. My digestion works. I have an amazing doctor who's really on my side. He watches out for me carefully. And the discomfort is some nerve damage that went along with having to act fast on my behalf, but
Mm-hmm.
I work with a pain management doctor who really helps me figure that out the best we can. And I am always managing expectations because, wanting to feel the way I did before all this happened and knowing that, the future looks a little bit different
Mm-hmm.
uh, is very much part of it. And so just reconciling those things, to be honest, I have my good days and my bad, right? Like the days when I'm mad about it, days when I'm sad about it, and days when I'm like, you know what? This journey has led you to some really powerful places. And perhaps, I didn't ask for this journey, but it's mine to keep. So very much just sort of managing the remainder of what I'm dealing with in that way.
So that's an interesting thing because I always feel like everything that happens in life, it happens for a reason. It propels you into your purpose or, something comes of it. So you've said that, it's made you not take your health for granted and just be more respectful of all the little things that we are able to do. But what do you think is like the major aha moment of this entire situation? Do you think it's your foundation that you're starting or your, retreat?
Yeah, that's a really tough question, Nicole, because I struggled with that for such a long time. I think I had so much anger because I didn't think I needed another aha moment. I
Mm-hmm.
really was the biggest fan of Oprah growing up. I thought I was reflective. I thought I was someone who was doing good work. I thought I had purpose. And I was so angry because it really upset my worldview because I've always been someone who believed that everything happens for a reason. And a friend of mine said, that can be your worldview still because it's not just karma, there's also Leela. And I was like, what does that mean? I don't know what you're talking about. And she said to me that I should look it up because some things happen for a reason and some things happen for no reason at all. Um,
Mm.
and that they do a dance with one another in our lives. And that for me, it's been a really healing way to think about this experience, in that I think I am who I was always meant to be, and this experience is just another added layer to that. But I don't credit, this perforation with anything more than the fact that it was something really hard in my path.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me closer to other people who also have really hard things in their path. And also the fact that personally, I took a step back to the balcony and really looked at things that I didn't look at before as things I needed. Like I said, the independence piece was really powerful, realizing that I needed to ask for help and that community is best when everyone is giving and receiving help, was the impetus behind designing Stubborn Heart Kickstart. And so that does feel ceremonious to me, and it does feel purposeful to me. And it does feel like a next step in the journey compared to what I might have missed had I not had this experience.
But the Stubborn Heart, was that something that was ever a project that you were working on before you even got ill?
No, actually, it's interesting. A friend of mine sent me a quote in the hospital. I was too out of it for the better part of time to read the quote or spend much time with the quote. But actually, in the 8 months that followed, I was really hopeless and I was really feeling down, really feeling like the daily pain was not worth it. I felt like the struggle wasn't worth it. And that was the first time in my life where I'd ever thought that way. And it scared me. It really scared me. And so I would read this quote, and the second half of it said, the universe always falls in love with a stubborn heart. And so I believed that if I kept fighting, no matter how much I wanted to give up, even if it was miserable every step of the way, that the universe would answer and that it would be okay. As long as I kept fighting. It didn't mean that I was going to do it well. And it didn't mean that I was going to be looking good while I did it. And it didn't mean that I was going to have all the answers or much to advise anyone else on, but I was just going to keep going. And that was what has carried me through. And so as I dwelled on that quote, I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? There's more to this. This is more than me. This is more than this one experience. I think we're all a collection of stubborn hearts who have overcome our own battles. I'm sure, if we talked longer, you could tell me about your life and things that have been really hard for you. And a lot of us don't talk about these things, the things that are hardest for us and the things that we've had to overcome to be our best selves and to be our not best selves, right? And so we should have permission to be those people all the time. And I wanted to bring that to the forefront. I wanted that to be more a part of my life and more a part of other people's lives moving forward. I didn't want it to be something that I felt ashamed to talk about or like it was just going to go in a file cabinet of things that have happened to me instead of really rise to the front of like why I wake up every day now.
So, what do you do for a living today?
For a living, I run a leadership program for high school students and their adult partners in the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So I train them in youth adult partnership, which often means helping them to understand what they bring to the table, what their assets are, and then how they want to see change happen in their communities and in their schools.
Yeah. I see a lot of connections in what you do and where you're going and how all of this stuff is just like coming together. So I don't know, Staci. I think this is all a part of the master plan. But, however, you think about it, as long as you're doing it, I guess that's all that matters. So, this was very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I want you to tell us again when this will launch, where people can follow you, and how they can be a part of this program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time out and for really making me feel welcome. I would love for all folks listening to be connected with me, to share your stories with me, and to figure out ways that we can all be stubborn together, whatever that looks like for you. So I'm easily found on Instagram at Stubborn Heart Consulting. I would love if you could tag your stubborn heart anytime you have a story to tell of your own, because I'd love to see what you're up to and how you're facing your biggest struggles, because we don't have to face them alone. And for more information about the Stubborn Heart Kickstart, you can visit the website at www.stubbornheart.org.
Awesome. All right, Staci. Well, I wish you well with this. I think it's going to be great. And I'll definitely have to pop over and check it out because I'm close to the city, so I'll have to check it out.
Oh my gosh, that makes my stubborn heart happier than anything I've ever heard.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
I hope you have a great time between now and February when we get started.
Yes, I will. So, again, thank you. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Nicole.